Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to Looking Ahead, the series where I break down and analyse the meta, what's happening over Japan, and how will that impact Taiwan. And today we're breaking down the Twilight Masquerade metagame from the previous Champions League. There's also day 1 and day 2 meta percentage, as well as also the matchup roulette, so we can kind of see exactly how dominant Dragapult really is. Plus, we're also going to break down exactly what was the most popular version of Dragapult. Has Japan cracked the code with Dragapult yet? Plus some brand new cards, some new rulings for the Japan Nationals, as well as also looking at, because obviously the City League is now finished, looking at some Gym Challenge winning lists of some of the top performing archetypes. So without further ado, let's jump right into the brand new cards. And some of them are very exciting. Now we have the Pokevigil A, which is a brand new A spec, and it's got one of these factors where if it's in a discard pile, a player cannot put it back in a hand or shuffle it back into their deck. So before you say Pokestop does not actually get this card, it instantly gets discarded. So how powerful is this A spec? Well, you get to heal 150 damage from one of your Pokemon, and you can't reutilize it multiple times. Now, it's only been on one other effect, being Legacy Entry, because that is a very, very powerful effect, but only healing 150 damage and not being able to use it multiple turns doesn't seem as strong as possible, and definitely this is one of the first proper bulk A specs we have seen. But Dartrix has got a lot of people excited with that United Wings attack. 20 times the amount of Pokemon in your discard pile with United Wings attack. Now this is very good and got people very excited because now the fourth Pokemon which has United Wings finally entered the fray, being Dartrix. Now we still have Ditto for just a little bit of just another format, but if all of you have pretty much all of your 16 United Wings in the discard pile, you can hit 320 damage, which KOs, obviously it can KO Charizard with the likes of Dartrix, but it also can KO the likes of Dragapult by hitting that whopping 320 damage. So this is actually a very, very good card. 06 Plan is a very scary card for hand control. We could actually see a proper hand control enter the fray. What you get to do is your opponent discards cards in their hand, so we have 3 in their hand, which is very, very scary, especially if you think about control, where they can potentially just go draw pass, have a huge 20-card hand. Even if you think of the likes of Lost Box in Gardevoir, they accumulate these massive hands. So 06 Plan can be really, really detrimental to their sort of game plan. Pretty much force them to discard until we have 3 cards. Heck, you can even follow up with your own Luxray to discard even more cards, or even an Arbok as well. There are just so many very, very scary things that 06 can really have to offer, especially in a controlling sort of environment. So I think 06 Plan could be really, really good. Their Slithering as well is definitely a lovely hard counter to the likes of Iron Hands EX with our Iron Buster attack, which is 20 damage plus 120 more damage if the opponent's active Pokemon is a future Pokemon. So basically doing 140 damage times weakness, 280, which is very, very powerful. Now, all of these cards are actually going to be in our World set, which is going to release in early August. So it's really, really exciting. Remember back in the Dark EXs, which I'm very, very excited to kind of cover and talk about, those will actually be part of the set as well. And we can get play them for the first time ever in the World Championships. So now we've looked at the new cards. Let's break down some of the Champions League metagame that happened a few weeks ago. So if we look at the day 1 meta percentage, we can see a lot of people were still favouring Dragapult as their mode deck of choice, being 26.8%, which is a huge number. Obviously, it's one of the most hyped archetypes. Japan doesn't have, obviously, an online client to really play test, so City League is definitely the best way to play. We saw how powerful Dragapult really was, and people definitely saw the strength. I was playing a lot of Dragapult yesterday, doing lots of testing, and I was pleasantly surprised by how strong Dragapult really is, especially the Xatu build, which I think is more preferred build. Lugia was second place, the most popular one, being 13.5%, and even Charizard is still up there. Now, I would say Charizard finished rounds up to 50% by being 8.1%. This, I think, is quite a nice sort of surprise as well. I generally thought Dragapult. Charizard kind of definitely got dethroned by Dragapult, where it has higher HP, doesn't have a weakness, and can deal consistent, very, very powerful damage, plus an amazing draw factor. So seeing Charizard do very well also makes a bit of sense because of how powerful it was beforehand. People obviously go with their testing, so that's why I think that is so popular. Blossom variants is definitely more favourite in the Giratina build. It's been 6.8, and the regular Lost Box being 5.2. Miraidon is being 4.9, Chien-Pao being 4.4, then the Future Box 4.2, Gardevoir being 4%, and then finishing off with Blissey, actually getting 3.2. Now, I've actually been pleasantly surprised. I did some testing. I saw Andrew Mahomes stream as well, and Blissey with Monkey Dory is very, very scary. By constantly move around the energies and effectively nearly healing 90 damage per turn. Heck, check a Radiant Radiant Serena in there, you're basically healing 110 damage and doing 90 damage to your opponent. That is very, very scary, Blissey is. With 300 HP, That is very, very scary indeed. Now, how will this help you in NAIC testing? Obviously, Twilight Masquerade is released this week. How can this actually impact your testing so far? Well, we can see this definitely sees the most popular archetypes. We've seen Dragapult and Lugia being about nearly 40%, which is definitely something which you should be considering. These are the most popular decks, the most strongest decks, and obviously they did very, very good results, both from getting top 4 in the archetype. Now, obviously, we can see that Miraidon and Gardevoir, these were the finalists and second place lists. We can see they didn't actually do as well, being 5% as well, also 9% of the metagame. But again, if you add that all up, that's nearly 50% of the metagame, which got top 4 at the previous Champions League. So you can already see day 1 had a really good result. And if we just convert that into day 2, we can see Miraidon absolutely skyrocketed 10.7% by getting that to 15.6%. And Dragapult only fell by 2.5%, by still being 25% of the metagame, which is still really, really scary. But we can see a few things have absolutely fallen from here. We can see the likes of Blissey, of course, because it's a roguey sort of archetype, but the likes of Chien-Pao has completely gone away because Chien-Pao isn't as strong going into this one. If there's a huge field, Dragapult, which can deal multiple damage counters and KO pretty much your optimal Friggy backs as well as also your B-doofs, definitely Chien-Pao could have a little bit of a rest in the binder for a bit. But why is Miraidon doing so well? Well, if we can see it has a very, very powerful matchup with Dragapult, and I definitely learned that from my testing. But how powerful it could be, you have nearly 16 basic energies. You're trying to get a turn 1 Iron Hands, you have Iron Bundle, you have Prime Catch, you have multiple ways trying to put the pressure on and go. You have to respond with a the likes of Dragapult, but you can't one-hit KO and Iron Hands back. You've got to take 2 turns to KO it, including the likes of moving the damage counters around. So obviously it's going to be very, very scary for any Dragapult to deal with if a turn 1 Iron Hand, especially if they're going second. Dragapult definitely is more favorable in the likes of the Xatu build, which we're going to talk about very shortly. And Lugia as well. Again, had a little bit of a decrease, but obviously has a really good match with Dragapult, and it kind of like doesn't do as well into Miraidon as we definitely did see, but how powerful Miraidon really can be. Now, some other decks definitely did increase, including the likes of Lost Tina. Lost Tina, I think, is one of the best Lost Tina decks to play right now in the format because it is just that incredibly inherently strong. It increased by nearly 5%, by meaning 11.2% of the day 2 meta percentage. Now, let's talk about how powerful it is. Blood Luna is a very good attacker and definitely in the late game. And the likes of, it could even go back to had the likes of adding the Maximum Belt to try and get the big one-hit KO on the likes of Dragapult. But you also have Star Requiem, you also have Greninja, you have multiple ways to try and take multiple prizes, turn after turn after turn. And Dragapult can't exactly one-hit KO you, even if they have to sprinkle damage beforehand. So always something to be considered. Block Clax definitely goes into return because that's exactly the more preferred way of control in Japan. We saw that again in top 8 placements. We know how powerful it really is in Japan. They don't really favour the likes of the Pidgeot build because they really value stall. Not many decks in here are playing lots of the switch cards. They're mainly playing the likes of the emergency board because that is just so powerful, giving free retreat to many Pokemon, which has 1 retreat cost, which a lot of its package really do. So that's one of the very much powerful inherent things about it. Now, again, going into NAIC testing, we can see that some of the top decks have definitely shifted a little bit. Charizard has fallen down a few places, but we can see definitely and even Gardevoir has fallen down a little bit. But if you add everything together, including the Gardevoir, including if you look at the top 4, that's nearly 6% on the metagame. Again, thinking about these, are these the top 4 decks to really test around him? Is Dragapult definitely the best deck because it's completely dethroned Charizard? Because day 2 meta percentage, it was only a 5.5%, which is a huge decrease from the dominant like 20 to 30% meta share it had just a few weeks before Dragapult's release. Now, I think it's a very, very insightful thing. I love when they do this releases because they can really understand about how the meta is evolving, especially going into NAIC. I do think it outlines that Miraidon and Dragapult are one of the top archetypes right now, and Lugia definitely had a huge increase. But you still have some other decks who are fighting for chance. They still really love Lost Box. They still really love Block Clax, and definitely they still love the Turbo Iron Hands because we can see that in the results here. Now, let's look at some very key data which was shown here. And that is this amazing data here, which definitely got translated by Tuan Lang, and the link will be in the description as well. And this is something really, really helpful. It's showing exactly day 1 meta breakdown, showing exactly what every deck would going into certain archives. And we can see here, if we look at Dragapult, it's pretty decent overall. And some of its worst matchups are like some Miraidon and Blissey. And from my testing, that is 100% true. Miraidon, especially if they're going second to get their turn 1 Iron Hand, is so difficult for you to respond. And Blissey, well, just watch Andrew Mahone's stream from last week, and you can really understand about how powerful Blissey really is. They're healing the damage, they're spreading some things across, and they can't pretty much one-hit KO because you're removing all the damage to try and respond to it. It's so difficult for Dragapult to have a response with. I definitely would say the likes of Lost Box, Gardevoir, and Charizard are really good matchups because they have very low HP other supporting Pokemon, which can really, really capitalize for the likes of Dragapult. Now, again, look at Lugia. pretty okay overall, but definitely the likes of Gardevoir and Miraidon, they can really struggle. Miraidon obviously hits for weakness and they can take multiple prizes, like Iron Hands. And Gardevoir, they can kind of become a single prize board state, and that can be very, very scary. Yes, you have the likes of, you can even play the Ogerpon, the Wellspring Ogerpon, as well as also the likes of Turbo Iron Hands. Sorry, just regular Iron Hands to try and capitalize, get multiple prizes, but Gardevoir could definitely respond to that very easily by even having a Gardevoir EX in play could be very difficult for him to KO, and they have to take at least multiple turns to set up their Cinccino. Charizard has definitely fallen a big fall from grace. If we look at it, the only real positive matchup is Gardevoir because it's a 50-50. The rest are definitely very below average, which is definitely something which is very sad to see. Even if you look at the likes of Lugia, has a very, very good matchup, but definitely a very strong Blissey. You might go, Charlie, why on earth is that? Well, you can spread lots of damage on this one. You can even set up some multiple KOs for likes of Greninja. Yes, they could potentially heal some damage off from that from Monkey Dory, but as long as they don't get that set up, you can have a really good time with this one. Plus, if you play Maximum Bout, plus you can have the likes of Sarakim, you can instantly one-hit KO Blissey EX in response, which is really, really strong. Lost Box as well. Falling a little bit from grace, doesn't really have a positive matchup with everything. But now this is why I love Miraidon. We can see here, its only worst matchup is Charizard being, Lost Box for being 54 point, no, it is Charizard being 45. Don't know why I randomly said 54. You can see that's a pretty powerful matchup. The rest of us are very much in the red, which is a good thing in this matchup, being how powerful it really is. Then you can see the likes of Blissey have a pretty decent matchup, but has a really, really weak likes of Miraidon, Gardevoir, and Lugia, because they can, Dex and Dragapult, those decks, because they can really easily one-hit KO response you back. I think this is an incredibly helpful data to look at. Sometimes when I'm preparing for a tournament, I look onto Trainer Hill, I look onto Limitless, I see exactly how the deck's been performing, and this is exactly a really good insight. You can see exactly what the matchups are really like into certain decks, and to give you a good testing thing, especially as we're leading up to Twilight Masquerade being released, plus also leading up into the release of NAIC in just a few weeks' time. Now, if we look at what actually was the most common Dragapult builds, we can see here that the likes of Xatu was the most popular one in day one, being nearly 47% of the metagame. Some other very popular ones of Charizard being 16.2, just straight Pidgeot build being 14.3, the Lost Zone build being 9.4, and then the Xatu and Pidgeot build being 6.6, and then the other being 6.1. Now, for my personal testing things, I think this Xatu build is really, really good, but it does have its limitation. It can be a little bit slow. It has an amazing draw factor where if you have your Xatu out and 2 draw cloaks, you're effectively seeing 6 extra cards a turn, which is really, really powerful. And definitely an extra energy attachment every single time is really strong. Now, I think that's much stronger in that case, because like so Charizard, you only can attach the fire energies once with this ability, but you might have to play the likes of Scoop Up Cyclone or even the likes, Super Scoop Up and the likes of Churro to really pick up the Charizard to reutilize its ability. That's definitely something which can be a bit weak about it. Pidgeot, I definitely think is one of the weakest version of the deck. Why do I think that is? Well, because you're always limited to that one energy attachment. There's no extra energies to go with it. Yes, you have an upper Neo energy, but there's enhancement in this format, and it can easily be discarded. The Lost Zone build, I do have a big fan of this one, but you're not attacking with Dragapult until much later on in the game when you finally have Mirage Steps, which sometimes could be turned to maybe even 3 or 4, depending on your draw factors. Yes, you have other very, very good attackers from the likes of, you can even add a Radiant Greninja, or in fact, Radiant Charizard is much stronger at times, Sableye and Cramorant, so you have other really good secondary attackers, but then the deck I feel like could be a little bit clunky. I think the Xatu package right now is the best one. It works with emergency board. It could be your free retreat pivot, has a decent HP, as well as also because it gets out of Greninja range. Plus, also the energy attachment is really, really strong. Potentially, you have 2 of these out here. You could effectively attach 3 energy, 1 from hand, and then 2 from ability per turn, which is really, really good. And the additional draw really makes this deck much stronger. Now what I want to do is look at some of the gym battle things. Obviously, City League has finished for the season because Japan's about to have their national championships, and I want to look exactly what are some of the decks that actually are winning. There are some fun decks here, but we've got to look at all of these the decks which appeared here on the main meta percentage. We're going to look to see exactly how they are performing right now in the City Leagues, in the Gym Challenge leagues in the past few weeks. But before that, let's talk about the Day 2 new rules, because this obviously is a huge thing going to affect Japan Nationals. Now, it's only going to affect Day 2, but they're finally going to a best of 3, which is really, really exciting. And they have a very interesting way of their reward system. If you go 2-0, the winner is awarded 5 points. 2-1, the winner is awarded 4 points. 1-0, the winner is awarded 3 points, but if it is a 0-0 or a draw, there is still that double game loss, and it's now going to a top 8 instead of a top 16. Sorry to gloss over, this is a huge news that did drop, and I think this is quite exciting. This is the first time in Japan outside of World they are doing a best of 3, which is honestly really exciting and affecting all of day 2. This is going to be a completely different metagame. Normally, obviously, Japan's format is built for best of 1, so decks are much more faster, much more aggressive, and obviously we know that decks do change from best on day 1 to day 2. So how will people adjust their archetypes for this one? They might not be that aggressive sort of approach. They might go for the more tactical play. They're going to play more tech options. They're going to play more strategic, similar how we're sort of playing our sort of list as well, by making sure we play enough things of consistency potentially could work in other games as well. I think this is a good thing. The award system points are very interesting as well. Could this be Japan really testing out the waters right now? Could this be incremented in our format as well? And going from no top 16 to straight top 8 is definitely going to be quite a nice thing to see. But I think having a higher points winning, hopefully I mean there'll be less people will bubble out. Now, that's very, very exciting, huge news as well. Let's actually jump right now into some new deck lists. So let's look at Dragapult here, and this is a build which I've definitely been testing quite a bit as well. We can see he does play a 2-2 Xatu line, the Tatsuguri to kind of help you find supporters, still a Minion and Rotom package. I really like this one. I play this build very similar to the likes of Charizard, it's the best way to describe it. The Rotom is so good in the early game, whether you get to draw 3 if you're going first, or potentially find your Forest Silver and get anything in the late game. Now, I really like TM Devo and Evo. I think that is the best way to play this deck, especially if you're going second. TM Evo to try and get a Xatu out or draw Cloak is really, really powerful. And the TM Devo in the late game is absolutely detrimental to any of your opponent's strategy. Templar Sinnoh over the likes of Enhanced Hammer to remove any of the missed energy, but also some very interesting tech toys is this Ace Spec. We've seen pretty much unfair Stamp or even likes of Prime Catcher in most of Dragapult builds, but Scoop Up Cyclone is a very interesting one as well. Now, I think this is a nice inclusion because you can kind of pick up a Dragapult if it's heavily damaged and potentially use your energy attachments again from your Xatu. You can evolve any of your your Dreepies around in play. So I do think this could work, especially in sort of some other matchup wise. The rest of it is very much similar to how we're seeing most Dragapult sort of builds go. And definitely I've noticed the Xatu build is the most popular one because obviously it did in fact get top 4. Lugia as well here. This build here is very much where we're seeing most of the Lugia builds go with it. The Wellspring Ogerpon was a nice inclusion, but it's kind of like disappeared a little bit. Definitely focusing more on the Iron Hands, but the Mew EX is a nice one as well. Why do I think this is good? Because it can work in the likes of Giratina, utilizing this attack. You can also utilize the likes of Radiant Greninja, which can be a big surprise as well. And you can see here, they are going with a 4-3 line of Cinccino. Now, obviously going for the high count of the 70 HP Minccino because that is the best one to play right now because that's the only one you can really, really effectively have on field because you don't want it to easily KO like the Dragapult. I think the Dramin Tower is really good, really helping the Gardevoir matchup, stopping also the likes of Maxim Belt, KOing either Iron Hands or Bluntly Luna, which I think is a really good one. This build here is not playing a Carmine, but it's playing a heavy count of Research, and hoping you're going to get that, especially if you're going second. Not other things to really talk about. I like the Evolution Incense. I think that's definitely a mainstay in the deck. Great Ball as well. I just think this deck is very much kind of like not really a known quantity, but I like seeing the new decks as well. Kind of like keeping everyone on their toes to really see exactly how the meta is evolving, even in smaller scale. Charizard as well, you can see here, it has changed so much since the previous build. We can see here going to the 70 HP Charmanders, going to the 60 HP Pidgeys, instead of the 50 HP one. Not playing the 70 HP Beedus because you don't want to give a 2 retreat and single prize Pokemon. But we can see here they're playing the Churro to like pick up some cards, especially also helps in your control matchup. But you can see the Radiant Serena as well as also Maxim Belt is included. Now, we've seen most of the Charizard decks really kind of go if they play the Kyurem, play the Maxim Belt, because they want to try and KO the Dragapult, very much an early response. Also does help in the mirror match as well. But purely you're playing this one to really help you into that the Dragapult matchup. Now, it does even play the Mist Synergy to protect a little bit. That always was put in there for the Giratina, but now putting there for Dragapult definitely makes a lot of sense. Even the Team Evo, there is so much going on in this list here. Obviously, it did in fact win, but I think the Team Evo is really good if you're going second. Protecting your Charmants, protecting especially your Beedus, because you don't want to give up a single prize Pokemon that way very easily. I think Charizard has definitely still got a bit of wiggle room to work with, but it is definitely a strong deck, strong archetype still in the format, but it's constantly still in that evolving section to keep up with the likes of Dragapult. Lostina as well. This build here is quite interesting as well because it plays a TM Devo. I've not seen this in many decks, and even go back to the Prime Catcher. Most these decks are playing the likes of the Unfair Stamp because I think that is the best way for Guarantee to really capitalize. Think about the likes of, you always think about Countercatcher Roxanne, but now you can go Countercatcher, you could have gone Unfair Stamp, plus you can play a Chorus later on. There's lots of things to go around this one, but I think Prime Catcher definitely works in this archetype. Some decks even option to play like the Countercatcher Clone, but I'm not really sold on this one. You don't really want to kind of utilize that one purely to attack with Greninja, because also you always want to have everything to really work in its all place. The rest of it, I think, is a very nice build about how I think Lostina really activates and everything. But I definitely think the TM Devo is a really good inclusion. Potentially could just be a really good way to help you in the likes of Dragapult. We then look at regular Lost Box as well. We can see here that it's changed just a little bit by adding likes of Munkidori. And I quite actually like this one, because you're always going to have very low HP Pokemon, especially in the likes of Dragapult. Moving around some damage counters is super, super strong. And that's one thing I love about this one. Having like a Hooper is good because they're a very, very powerful attacking option. And even the Munkidori could work because you're always going to play Dark Energy. No Roy Moon, so definitely a little bit of a surprising factor, but they do play the Blood Luna as Luna, which is definitely slowly becoming my favorite card name of all time because it's just that powerful. The rest of it as well, very similar to where we're seeing most decks as well, but I still think this deck is still a little bit further away from being the absolutely powerhouse it once was, because it's trying to keep up with like the Dragapult, and it could Munkidori be the best way for this deck. Gardo as well, I've definitely seen the light of day. I know how powerful Munkidori is, and I've been testing a lot of Munkidori, and oh boy, it is absolutely terrifyingly strong. Now, the rest of this build here is very similar to the build I actually showcased on my Shorts channel, Shorts just a few days ago. Actually yesterday it was, and it's actually a very, very good build. I really, really like this one as well. I do like the Chiro because you can constantly want to pick up a Gardevoir, you don't want to have it in play, but no Collapse Stadium or any way to utilize your Chiro can be a little bit devastating for you. The rest of this one, very, very similar to how we're seeing most Gardevoir. There's nothing really out of the ordinary. People have definitely noticed they're not playing they shouldn't play the likes of Jirachi, or effectively, you can effectively, because you're playing two Team Evos, effectively add the 1/1 Rabsca line to try and really protect you, especially against any of the Dragapults as well, even Greninja at the same time. And looking at Miraidon as well, some of this build is very interesting. Obviously plays the Morpeko, which gets to look at the top card and you get to keep it, but also plays the secret box, which pretty much discards 3 cards. And this was a lot of people didn't know if this aspect could be amazing or terrible. And I think it could work in this one. You get your item card, you get your stadium card, get your sports card, tool card. I think it could work in Miraidon, but I think Prime Catcher is so much stronger because you could just threaten that turn 1 Iron Hands going second, which is honestly so much better for this deck instead of the likes of the secret box. But you could play multiple tool cards. We see here there are so many tool cards. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different tool cards in this list. So definitely playing House Tool, and this can really work in that sort of favor. And definitely this focusing more on trying to like power up your turn 1 Iron Hands by going through all of your stuff and not play the double turbo. Definitely an interesting choice. But you play so many tool cards. Hopefully your energy can actually stick around, especially with the amount of bosses you play as well. And Blissey as well. This is a build here which I'm slowly starting to actually really like Blissey. The Hero Escape one of Blissey basically effectively means it has 400 HP, which is insane for a stage 1 Pokemon. People are opting, and I do say this now, the Pokemon Go Blissey is better than the 151. The 151, yes, is absolutely amazing. Like if you take a prize card, you could potentially flip a coin and it goes on the bench or something like that, which is very, very good. But this Blissey regular one, it's got 130 HP and much more, and it can be very much protected overall. The rest of this one, they aren't playing any Futuros, but it's playing the Sharon's Care and Power Packs, so you can constantly utilize them. And pretty much the idea of this deck is you can use multiple Blisseys out and play, use this ability, move around some of your energies to pretty much effectively 90 damage every turn from utilizing the Munkidori's ability, which is really, really strong. Turbo Energize, make sure you attach to your chances, you can power up your Pokemon, so you can effectively attack much, much easier in the game. I think Blissey is definitely in a fun position going into the metagame. Definitely one of the best rogue archetypes right now. But effectively, if it's making the graphics and did really well in Champions League, could this in fact be one of the best meta cards or meta decks or control aspects in the new format? So finally looking ahead, will the meta actually change for Japan Championships? We get that in just a few weeks. I believe it's the first weekend in June. So effectively in 2 weekends time, which is really, really exciting. Could the meta change drastically? Is best of 1 good for Japan right now? I think it actually is a really nice thing, and I'm really excited to see how it's going to work. Will players really like this one? Will it be really well received online as well? But I think it's a really good thing. Really excited to see Japan experience the best one in this huge high stakes tournament as well. And is Xatu the best partner for Dragapult? Now, we've seen there was nearly 50% of Dragapult Day 1 list played Xatu, which noted it was the best placing list played the Xatu build. I've personally tested it, and I really am a big fan of this one. Could this be the best way to play Dragapult going into this brand new format? So, hope you guys enjoyed this latest looking ahead. If you have, please remember to like and subscribe. I'm going back in a few days' time by covering my top rogue decks for Twilight Masquerade, as well as also my best competitive decks on the release day on Friday. I hope you guys have a brilliant rest of your day. See you guys later. Bye for now.